everybody who is on this call. That means that the executive board determined that you are a playoff caliber official in the state of Delaware, which is an awesome thing. It means you guys have been working very hard. There's a lot of criteria, experience working with you, feedback from the coaches' feedback form, which was all, for the most part, very good this year. And if it wasn't, it was helpful, to help guide people and direct people, and also figure out who the bad coaches were, whatever. And also just some guys, based on your commitment, dedication to the group, being at all the meetings, taking all the quizzes, all of that kind of stuff, all helped in making those determinations. That said, it does not necessarily guarantee that every guy will get a playoff game. We have to get a couple more guys maybe than we need, because when the committee determines the locations and the dates, a lot of things can happen. You could have more games on one day than on another day. You could have a lot of games down south, those kind of things. So we need to really look at it, make sure we had ready to go the right kind of mix of guys to make sure we could cover all of these games when they happen. And we'll be able to, I think almost all of you will get a game. If you don't get a game, it's no knock on you. It just is the way that it works out. And JP, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, guys, all I can say is everybody's worked very hard this year. Just being put on the list is an honor in itself. It just comes down to there's more of us than there are games right now. In the regular season, there's more games than there are us. Congratulations to being put on the list, and I'll do everything I can. But, guys, please don't take it personally. If you don't get a game, if you didn't get it this year, you'll get it next year. So that's all I can say. Don't hold it against me. Don't take it personally. It has nothing to do with you. It just has to do with the right guys in the right games, the right places. I'll do the best I can, but there's a chance that some of us on this list may not end up with a playoff game. But like I said, still being selected is having your name put on the list means that the executive board are veteran officials that have worked with you. They think highly of you. They got your name on the list for consideration.
All right, very good. Let's move on to the agenda. So we're going to start with some discussion on mechanics, go over some of the expectations for playoff games. We're going to be doing something a little bit different with playoff games this year, where some of those games will be observed. We're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about what to do in your pregame, and then at the very end, there'll be room for questions. If during this time you have a question that you want to ask, type it into the chat window. Chris will either tell us at the very end. We'll go over the questions you guys typed in, and if he feels it's important to the conversation we're having at that time, he will let us know. He'll break into the conversation and let us know that there's an important question that could help clarify what we're talking about. So, all right, with that, we'll move on. So the first part is mechanics. This year, more than ever, we've gotten to do three-person mechanics. The very good news for her organization is we probably had a half a dozen or a dozen games where the coach's first response when he had issues was, why didn't I have three guys? So they want three guys. And nobody's bitching when they get three guys. So that's good for us in the future. And as long as we recruit well and bring a lot of guys in, it's going to mean more games for everybody in the future. And it means we're going to be able to cover all of the games in a better way. All right. Three-man responsibilities. Just to review, the lead official has the goal, okay? The goal in the crease area. That's his biggest and main job, okay? And he has the end line. Those are his jobs, all right? The other two guys take on the bulk of the responsibility here. The single side has the shooter, okay, and the passer. So as the ball's being moved around and being shot, the single needs to stay with the shooter, all right? The single has the sideline on the far side, on his side. He has that whole sideline. That's his responsibility. he has the 20 and 10-second counts, and he has the first offsides. So when we're in transition, guy jumps offsides, jumps back. They have too many guys for a moment. That's his responsibility. All right. And then the trail has the shooter. He's got the opposite goal. I'll come back to that in just a second. He's got over and back, and he's got what I would call the second offsides. So once transition is over and we're into a settled offense and the single has moved into his position to cover the offense, okay, the trail is always counting, okay, always counting. And if you watch the Georgetown and Hopkins game, somebody stopped counting, and it looked really, really bad for that crew when a guy snuck off and there were still 6 guys down. So those are the main responsibilities. When I say the opposite goal, so basically you're responsible for that goal behind you, and if we go into transition, there's a turnover, your number one job is to get to that goal and cover it. And you don't do anything else until you're there. All right? Are we good with that? All right. Let's talk for a minute about what we do when we have a shot and a save, okay? Because this is one thing we noticed in film that a lot of guys were having a little bit of problem with, particularly in regards to what the single was doing. So this midi up here next to our lead is going to shoot, okay? The single's in good position in close to the crease, all right? So he makes that shot, okay? The shot's a little slow, but so the shot gets in the crease. The lead pinches in for a second, okay? He's got the 4-second count. He's watching the play at the crease, and then he's going to slowly back out to his sideline and always stay 5 to 10 yards behind the play. I mean, north to south. So he's going to stay 5 to 10 yards closer to the goal during that transition, okay, to make sure he doesn't get trapped. The single, all right, JP, can they see my arrow?
I can see it, yeah.
Okay, good. So the single, basically he was here. He's going to come up, but he's going to back out, okay? And the reason we want him to back out and not turn and run to the cone is there's a lot of crap that's going to go on around the crease. So we want him to stick with that until, A, the crease is clear and the goalie kind of gets out of the crease. So that guy does that by backing out, all right? And he also needs to know where the ball ends up. If the ball ends up on the side of his sideline, he needs to be able to cover his sideline. So the point is, as soon as the goalie makes the save, don't turn your back on the play. Back out until you're secure that the lead has, an easy responsibility, and then start moving towards the cone, okay? And try to keep your neck turned and watch the play as you're moving. Everybody got that? Good, I can't tell. But all right, slow breaks. So on a slow break, this is usually going to be a settled clear. The single's at the cone. The trail is back with the ball, and the lead, as you notice, he's kind of at the top of the box waiting. So he's in a great position. And all we want to see is as they bring that ball up slowly, the trail stays with the person with the ball. And like I said, 5 to 10 yards behind him. So 5 to 10 yards closer to the ball. The single's here with his counts. He's also watching for anything herky-jerky happening, any nonsense. All right, and the lead is here slowly making his way towards the goal. All right, so as they come up, everybody's in position. As soon as this guy gets across midfield and the counts are good, the single should run down to his spot, and the lead's going to run over and make sure he has the goal. This is the time the trail can take his time. This is a good time to stop where he stopped here, get a good count. Okay, also sometimes it's a good time if you need to relay something to the coach or give the coach a chance to chew on your ear for a second if something bad happens. It's just a good look. It also lets this guy kind of keep an eye on everything going on with subbing and stay out of the way. Once all the subbing's done, the trail comes up and gets to his regular position. All right. Fast breaks, a whole lot different because we need to get to the goal. The lead should, as soon as that fast break starts, that's fine. Turn your back and run and don't stop till you're almost to your goal. All right. And the single can kind of run with the play. If the play goes across the midline, the single can go across. All right. And the trail is just going to come up and follow. All right. So same concept. Everybody comes. All right. We've got good coverage. All right. If there's any late hits or anything going on in here in the box, we're in good shape. And the trail is in good position. All right. And again, you can stop here for a minute and wait for subs. Okay, and stay out of the way and then get up. Just remember, you're always counting. Every time there's a substitution, do a whole count again. That way we make sure nobody snuck on. And also sometimes, a guy gets behind a goal or you get a guy behind another guy and you miss him. And then all of a sudden you turn around, everybody's screaming they got too many and it looks bad. So that trail should always be counting those offsides. And then ultimately he's going to come up to his position right here. The other thing I like in high school lacrosse is the fact that he's here. How often does play get up here and boom, guy drops the ball, they can't make a pass, and it comes right back the other way. This saves you about 30 yards of running, and it also makes sure that you're down here covering stuff in an unsettled.
Greg, hold on for a second.
Yep.
Never mind. Foo, you're good now. Something was wrong with your computer. I know you can't talk, we can't hear you, but I got your message and now you're good. You should be able to hear.
Foo's okay?
Foo, can you hear?
Well, he can't talk.
I just unmuted him. He didn't answer. So
he works because he needs this more than anybody.
Foo, send a message if you can hear.
All right. Now that we've blown up Foo, we're good to move on. All right. So penalty relays. Just for consistency, so when you have a flag down, all right, give me a second. So you have a flag down in the corner in 3-man. The penalty relay should be very, very, very quick. All right, so once play's dead, the ball hits the ground, goes out of bounds, there's a goal scored, anything like that, okay? Make sure you confirm with your partners the penalty number, the penalty time, and the foul. Okay, you're going to report, whoever gave the foul is going to report that foul to the trail. If it's something big or multiple flags, come together. If it's confusing, come together. Okay, make sure everybody knows what's going on with the penalty. Then the trail is going to come all the way up here. Don't relay from here, but come all the way up here, all right? Make sure the offender ends up in the box. You're going to relay the penalty. While that's happening, in this case, since the lead had the flag and the single is not doing anything, find the ball, find a player, get the ball out here, start counting your color. The lead gets his flag, he gets set up back to his spot. Once the trail turns around after relaying the penalty, we are ready to start, okay? And make sure that we are using C-note, that our tables understand the penalty. Another good habit is to yell out the release time. So when the guy goes in for 30 seconds, it's 7:21, you want to make sure everybody knows the penalty release is at 6:51. That's just good for everybody to know. It's good for you guys to know. It's good for the benches to know. It's also good for the girls to know. All right, it prevents a lot of problems later. Whoever's going to start, ball side right, as long as everybody's got their hands down, we're going to restart play. We want to restart these penalties as quick as possible. These shouldn't slow us down. They shouldn't screw up the game flow. Especially if you have a team that's kind of on a run, you don't want to be responsible for messing up their momentum. Again, though, if you have big penalties, you had something bad happen, you got an unsportsmanlike, make sure you take the time for everybody to understand it. All right. And then the last thing we're going to talk about with 3-man, unfortunately, is fights. All right. We have to do our best with fights. Hopefully, playoffs, guys understand, that it's not good to fight. But some guys have nothing to lose. Some guys go out, with as much testosterone as they can. and they're going to start a fight. So what we want to do, if there's a fight, okay, is whoever's closest to the fight, he doesn't have to yell fight, but he blows his whistle, okay? He tries as best he can to get the players separated, okay? Don't get in the middle of two guys trying to fight. That never works out well. But if you can grab a guy and stop things for a second, that's great. Hopefully the captains come in and help you. The other guy on the field should come over and help you, and the trail should be freezing the bench, okay? Once we get to this point, all right, we've got the benches frozen, hopefully. Best thing is blow your whistle. This is a good time to take out your card and just start writing down numbers of guys who get involved in the fight, all right? Remember, too, the head coaches are the only ones who are really allowed on the field. Assistant coaches come out and get involved. That's a penalty, okay? It should be an ejection. Assistants shouldn't get involved in fights, only the head coaches. Once the fight is over, everybody gets together, let the teams get together like it's a timeout. Let you guys, once everything's settled down, get together, figure out the penalties, call the coaches together, tell them what the penalties, what the ejections are, find out where those players are going to be. Can they leave with their parents? Is there somebody to go back and sit with them on the bus? Are we going to have guys on the bench? How are we going to do that? Make sure everybody understands how we're going to restart. There's no game flow considerations when there's a fight. If you have a fight, your game flow is gone to shit, and you just deal with it. JP, you got anything else on that?
No, we did have a situation this year where the AD wanted to look at video. We don't look at video, guys. Just tell them we'll handle it on the field. If we miss something, JP will take a look at the video as the state rules interpreter, and I'll talk to Tommy Neubauer, and we'll go from there after the game. But don't take time to look at video. Don't let him bring down an iPad. Don't let him go to the stands and ask if a parent videotaped it. If you miss a number, you miss a number. Get as many numbers as you can. Make sure you freeze the benches. The trail should just turn, blow your whistle, put your arms out, make yourself big, freeze the benches, continue to blow your whistle so nobody comes off the bench. If they do, just write down the number and go from there. But don't let the AD or the coach or anybody, most ADs will be at their team's games, whether they're home or away. Don't let them try and bring down an iPad and have you look at it.
Okay, and again, tell them, you can share the film with JP, you share it with the DIAA, and they will look at that film after the fact and decide, if penalties and ejections are warranted. But it's not in the rule. We can't. It very specifically says in the rule book we cannot use replay to make any decision. Okay, so that's the way it is. All right. Hopefully we won't have any fights. Hopefully, if you manage the games really well and you identify the guys who are likely to get into fights and you deal with them, you can stop them. But if not, this is what you do. All right. With that, expectations for a playoff game. And before I put up all the stuff, I know I tend to become I piss on everybody's parade with my expectations. The first expectation is that you have fun. You're a part of a big game. It's important to everybody involved, and I'm hoping everybody's having fun. All right. That said, you guys need to be in contact with each other 24 hours prior to the game. Not that morning, not after lunch that day, but once you get your assignments, get together by email, determine your meeting place, determine your uniform for the day. All right.
Guys, the assignments will be out by 12 tomorrow, 12 o'clock Monday afternoon. So you'll have time. The games are either 7, 5, and there's one game at 6 o'clock. But the assignments will be out in plenty of time for you to contact each other 24 hours before.
Okay, so that's vital. Make sure you have a meeting place. Okay, all of these schools have a good spot to meet. All right, we're working in the future on getting you locker rooms for playoffs. We didn't get quite that far yet, but for here, find a spot that's away from all the fans, where you can dress, where you can hold your pregame, because that's going to be vital. Uniform. There's no changes in what our uniform rules are, same as it has been all year. Just make sure you look sharp, okay? I've taken all my uniforms out of the back of the Prius locker room and cleaned them. So none of my uniforms smell or anything like that, so I know I'm good. Make sure your uniforms are clean, okay? Use your newest and best uniforms. I saw a couple in one officials where the stripes were brown and white. That's not really acceptable, so hopefully you bought a new shirt this year, wear that shirt. If you have facial hair, that's fine, okay? Make sure it's neatly trimmed. We don't want you identified as the scruffy one or the guy who didn't shave. Those sunglasses, and as always, everyone looks the same, okay? Everything, shorts and shorts or longs and shorts. Hopefully we're past all the rain, so it'll all be shorts and shorts. But everything's the same as this year. All right, we're expecting the crew get on site at least an hour before face-off. So if your game is scheduled for 5 o'clock, everybody should be at your meeting spot at 4 o'clock. You have plenty of time to make sure you're dressed, you have all your gear, and you have at least a good 15 or 20 minutes for a pregame, okay? Pre-games are going to be important. We're going to talk about that later. We want to get you on field at least 30 minutes before the game. Find the coaches, do your certification, work with the site manager and the home coach on what they're doing as far as anthems, prayers, lineups, all that, and make sure that that starts an appropriate amount of time before your scheduled face-off. All right, so if you walk up and you look on the clock and it's 6:30 and you have a 7:30 start and they've got 30 minutes on the clock, and you walk up to the coach and he says, oh yeah, we're going to do an anthem, we're going to do a prayer, we got a memorial for a player, and we're going to read every player on both teams' rosters, then you should tell them we need to change that clock to about 20 minutes so that everything happens and we face off on time. All right, observations this year. We are getting somebody out to observe many of the games. All right, and this is a good thing. I know some guys are going to think it's a gotcha, it's a terrible thing. Observations are very good. All right, and we're trying to work more and more into our game observations. So we're going to be using retired college officials, guys with a lot of experience, a lot of time. The purpose is instructional. Okay, it's to help you guys. The way I look at this is you guys are our best officials. So if we can get you, in a game like this with a good observation, with good feedback, hopefully next year you're taking what you're learning back to our newer guys, and it just develops consistency across. Okay, so it's strictly instructional. It's not a gotcha. It's not a beat you up. It's not a, let's find mistakes. It's if we find mistakes, let's correct them. It prepares us for next year. I look at you guys as the leaders. It's also to make sure we have consistency among our crews throughout the playoffs. All right. It's going to be very important in the playoffs that that a team gets kind of the same type of officiating in their preliminary game as they do in their quarterfinal game. So by hopefully getting some observations out there, we work on some consistency. It also does, frankly, if an issue does arise in a game and there's a whole lot of stuff going on and it gets back the next day and we have to have a discussion with the DIAA and the coaches and the ADs, hopefully that observer who saw everything can explain what happened. And I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, probably 9.5 times out of 10, that observer is going to be explaining why we got it right, because that's been the way it has been all year. When we've gotten feedback from coaches and they've sent us film, and these guys are like, these guys, they blatantly missed 50 slashes and, they didn't call an illegal body check to the head and this and that and the other thing. If they send us film, and JP can attest to this, there's maybe been 2 times out of maybe 30 or 40 clips they've actually sent after bitching where our guys got it wrong. And we kind of had to go back and say, look, you need to look at it a little bit differently. Almost every time we got it right. We had the flag, we had the right call, so on and so forth. So that's how observations really help. We're not going to be able to observe every game. If your game is going to be observed, the observer will call the R some point before that game. It might be that afternoon. It might be an hour before the game. The main thing the observer's going to know is, where are you guys meeting? And he'll meet you there. All right, so that's that. Pre-game. We want you to have a thorough pregame. I know during the season, we don't always have good pregames. It's for a variety of reasons. A lot of times guys can't get there till half hour before game time, just with game times and work and things like that. But because these are playoffs, because our expectation is you're able to get there in plenty of time, you need to have a good, thorough pregame. The pregame is led by the referee. I did send out a sheet. I will send it out again and post it somewhere for everybody to get. That sheet is a guide. Let me see if I can call it up real quick here. Pregame. So this is what the pregame looks like. It's two-sided. Okay. These are the big things you guys need to discuss. Now, you may not discuss every single thing, but the stuff in brown or gray, that's some good stuff to make sure you discuss. You want to be talking about things you're going to happen in that game. Make sure everybody understands what the referee expects in the game. Make sure everybody expects what to do in certain situations. I know in some of the pre-games I've been in, a team likes to run a lot of picks on the crease. Okay, well, how are we going to handle those picks? When are they going to be considered illegal screens? When are we going to be looking for unnecessary roughness? So it's very important to have a good, strong pregame. And even though I say it's led by the referee, everybody on the crew should have some sort of part in that pregame. It's not just the R sitting there preaching to his little minions. Everybody should have some input into that. Okay. Other than what's on the sheet, what do you know about the teams? Are they big, rough, physical teams? Is the coach a jerk? Is the coach a nice guy? Is he going to help you out? What kind of offense do they run? What kind of defense? Talk about the field. What do you know about the clock and the horn? When you were there before, was the clock always starting late? Did you have to stop the game to get them to wake up the person keeping the clock to make sure? Did the horn work? Was it too loud? How are you going to handle the horn? How are you going to handle the end of quarters? And then always talk about your exit strategy. Where are you getting out of the field? Okay, and my recommendation is on every field, if you can find a spot that doesn't involve walking right back through the crowd and the teams, that's your best exit strategy. But know where you're going at the end of the game. Who's getting coached, who's getting whatever, and how are you getting out of there? So that's important for the pregame. All right, before the game, get the captain's conference out of the way as quick as you can. Let these guys coach their players up. Let them go through their pregame. Let them go through their routine. The only thing you don't want to hold up for a coach's conference is like stretching. I know the DIAA has certain rules about when guys can get on the field. So if one team is stretching, wait until that team's done to get your captain's conference out of the way. The other thing, of course, you don't want to interrupt a prayer. That's never good. God doesn't like that. All right. I want you meeting with the face-off guys at every game. All right. It's the same conversations you've always had, but these are the guys you interact with most of the game. You want to get them on your side. You want them to understand that you want good, fair face-offs, and these are your expectations. Give them a chance to ask questions. And the best part of that is always to tell them, hey, something doesn't go your way here and you're not happy, bring it to you guys and the other face-off guy and settle it out there. Don't let your coaches settle it. But you should be meeting with the face-off guys, checking their sticks, checking tape, so there's no surprises, no problem. Identify the site manager, okay? You want to know, hey, who that guy is in case you have issues later, all right? And every game has the AD for the schools should be there, but there should be a site manager from the DIAA who's basically in charge. Sometimes when you walk through the ticket booth, ask who the site manager is and have at least the referee introduce themselves. figure out who's making any lightning calls. I think the weather's going to be clear, but if it looks like you're going to get storms, find out. Does the athletic trainer have a device? Are they going to be the ones to tell you? Is it going to be the AD? Anything like that. Of course, if you see a big flash of lightning come out of the sky, don't wait. It's our responsibility to stop the game. But other than that, just kind of know who that person is. Identify who the penalty timer is. Have a conversation with that penalty timer about how they're keeping penalty time. Make sure they're counting down loud so everybody knows when the releases are and all that kind of stuff. Make sure they understand that they do need to hold off on their texting when somebody's in the box. And make sure they understand how to tell you if they're confused. Confirm the horn works. Keep an eye on the clock, especially early in the game. Make sure they start up. I know some of these newer clocks, you have to watch them because what does tend to happen, they're using a radio frequency to start and stop the clock on the scoreboard instead of a cable. And sometimes there'll be a second or second and a half lag between when they push the button and when the clock stops or starts, and sometimes, when it stops. That doesn't affect the 0-0 at the end, but just know, so if you look up at that clock and it's not running, just look for a second to see if it has that lag. Okay, of course, if you get a situation where a clock doesn't start, kind of start to count to yourself, wait till there's no imminent scoring opportunity, stop play, get the clock right. All right. I am going to ask JP to talk to Tommy and see if we can make sure that every site has an air horn. I don't know if that'll happen, but that's always good in case horns don't work or something like that. And then
the home team should still be responsible, but I will talk to.
Right.
I will send out emails to the ADs involved in the tournament and make sure that their coaches know they should have their air horn if they are the home team and it is a neutral site. There's only one game in the first round that is a neutral site. DMA is playing. I'm not sure who they're playing, but they're playing someone at Tower Hill.
Yeah.
DMA's home game will be at Tower Hill. Charter, thank you. Yes, it's DMA and Charter in the first round at Tower Hill.
All right. So, and don't do anything that disrupts the flow of the pregame. That's why I want you guys out there 30 minutes early. Get your captains, get your face-off guys, and then get off to the side. If people want stick checks, you're there to do stick checks. You can continue your pregame. You can figure out where you're going to drink afterwards. Whatever at that point. But
a good point was brought up that I think we should talk about now, real quick. It's not a penalty, guys, but the eye black is supposed to be one stripe, and the reason that we need to enforce it is because the 302 Sports and Delaware Sports Online, or the Delaware Online, they do a great job interviewing these guys and taking pictures, and it usually happens after first round of the playoffs. I get a call from Tommy Neubauer with a picture of somebody with eye black all the way down their face. Just walk through the pregame. If they got too much eye black on, tell them, wipe it off. Just tell them one stripe. You've told them once. You've let them know. Make sure you say it to the coach too. Coach, in your pregame, you can say, Coach, please help us out. Make sure your players only have one stripe of eye block under their eyes. It's going to happen. There's going to be a picture taken, or somebody's going to be interviewed, and Tommy Neubauer will call, and I'll have to explain that that's one that slipped by us. But it's not a penalty, so we're not penalizing them, but we're just going to keep reminding them, get the eye black off, get the eye black off.
All right. Yeah, that's a good point. All right. So, working playoff games. Real quick, here's my take on it. Just remember, everybody is hyped. All right. Some guys, in some situations, everybody believes they can win. Hopefully, if their coach is halfway decent, they've told them, hey, if this, and this goes right, and you guys execute everything I've taught you all year, you're going to win this game. Everybody's going to come out with fire coming out of their ass. So just be ready for it. Okay, do your best to stay out of the way of it. But if it ends up involving a big hit or something happening, you got to get that big hit. You got to get anything like that. But other than that, let guys be excited. It's a big deal. And for some guys, this is the last time they're going to strap a helmet on and they're going to grab a stick and they're going to walk out and play the game. So be mindful of that.
Greg, hold on. There was a question. I can answer it now. If not a penalty, can you explain the procedure if they come into the field? You're going to wait until you get an opportunity to quietly tell him, don't come back on the field until you clean off your eye black. We're not going to make a big deal about it. Just make sure you've said it to the coach. Make sure if you see it on a player in the lineup and talking to the captains, doing the face-off, tell them to get it off. Maybe stress that when you're talking to the captains. Guys, tell your players to get the eye black, one stripe. That's all we're doing. It can't go up their eye. You know, some of these guys, for some reason, will go around their eye so it's up on top. Just, we're not going to stress about it, but it's got to be addressed. That's all. Just if you see him, ignore it for a second, and then get a chance, you know, run by him. Hey, don't come back on the field unless you've wiped your face off. Something like that.
Yeah. That goes to maintaining game flow. Try and do it on a dead ball, you know, and hopefully, you know, if you stress it in the beginning in your pregame with the coaches and with the captains, you know, hey, it's not our rule, but you guys have to have the eye black right coming on the field. Don't do anything. If you're going to do anything, do it in the first quarter. We don't want to get any situations where all of a sudden a guy showed up on the field in the fourth quarter of an 8-8 game, and one of us made him leave the field, you know, and somehow that ended up being the reason why their season is over. All right, so maintain game flow. Keep the game moving, okay? This involves a lot of things. It involves when you have a dead ball, get play started as quickly as possible legally, okay? On technical fouls and little things that happen during the game, you don't owe the coach an explanation. Tell him you had a push. Tell him you had a hold. Tell him the ball was out of bounds. But we don't stop play on loose ball fouls to explain it to a coach, okay? Just, you know, we don't. Later on, if you rotate around to him and he asks you the question, tell him what you saw. But you had a hold and you had whatever, that's it. Keep the game moving. The one thing we have noticed with some of you, and not all of you because you guys are playoff officials, when the lead gets the ball out of the net, run. Don't jog. Don't take your card out and write and then kind of half-speed jog. Run. Okay? The ball should get to the center X before anybody. Get there, get the ball up, get the timer started, and keep the game moving. You can write on your card later, okay? All right? Just that's the number one thing I've seen with game flow is our guys not getting back to their positions, which means the players don't feel they even have to start. But if we're at our positions and we're ready to go, the game moves along, okay? On a penalty relay the penalty. Hopefully you can explain it as part of C-note in that explanation. But if it's a run-of-the-mill slash or it's a run-of-the-mill push or, you know, something like that, you don't owe the coaches a huge explanation. Coach, he had the stick up across his chest and he restricted movement. It was a hold. You know, keep it that simple. Later, if you have a second to tell them a little bit more, that's fine. But we're not holding up games to make a million explanations. I don't know where that came from with these coaches. All right, turn off your hearing aids. All right, shut them down. In a playoff game, for language, for guys saying that's a crazy call, how do you make that call? That's a bad call. Try and tune it all out, especially if it's not right at you. If it's right at you, warn guys. Don't flag guys just because they don't agree with you. Not in a playoff game, okay? The only thing you're going to go right to a penalty is an F-bomb that's directed at somebody in the crew, an F-bomb directed at other players, or a threat. I'm going to kick your ass, you know, I'm going to tear you up, whatever. Any comment that makes it personal. So, yeah, as soon as the coach says, what, do you have money on this game? What, did you go to, you know, did you go to Tower Hill? Even though they're not in the playoffs, I don't know why that would matter. You know, what did you go here? You know, is Bob Healy your cousin? Once they make it personal, that's a flag. But other than that, try and work them through that kind of stuff, players and coaches. Again, assistant coaches, as soon as assistant coach questions your call, warn the head coach. Warn the head coach. Okay? If you got a bench that's out of control, get it under control in the first quarter. We don't want to be throwing flags for things that were happening in the first quarter in the fourth quarter when it really matters. Okay?
Great.
Yes.
Greg, you talk about mouthpieces. How are we going to handle these players with two mouthpieces, one hanging on their helmet and one in their mouth? You want to?
I tell them you're a very safe person. I'm proud of you. Your mom must be
No.
proud of you. Yeah. The mouthpieces, I mean, I really don't know. I don't even know how to deal with that. I mean, if the first time I see it, I'm going to tell the kid, hey, can you put the other one in your pocket or something? You know, because you had to stop play because the kid had a mouthpiece hanging. You know, you tell me how you would deal with it.
I'm going to keep reminding them that they need to have their mouthpieces in. I'm not going to actively look for it because, yes, that is absolutely important. But we need to make sure we're not affecting the game because of a mouthpiece. Yes, we have to stress they can't fish hook it. It has to be in. If he scores a goal and he's running by you and you can 100% tell he doesn't have a mouthpiece in, that's fine. You can call it. Remember, the goal stays on the board. The other team is awarded the ball at the face-off X. If a kid runs by you and you're standing there and you can tell his mouthpiece isn't in, he's got the ball on his stick, take the ball away. Make a point. If you're going to do it, make a point early, not with 2 minutes left in the game. So, yes, hey, we need to make sure they're safe. We need to make sure they're wearing them, but let's not change the outcome of a game because of a mouthpiece. I'm sorry. Let's not affect the outcome of a game because of a mouthpiece.
Well, we don't want to get involved in the game because of a mouthpiece. So, just to piggyback, I think on what JP's saying, if you're going to be the mouthpiece guy, be the mouthpiece guy in the first quarter and end it. Okay? Don't wait. Don't, take care of mouthpieces early so they don't hurt us late. You agree with that?
Yep.
Okay. Again, work people through situations. Again, what I've really learned recently is no matter how right you are in a situation, okay, if you penalize a kid, half of everybody else's perception is you penalized him. You picked him up and you put him in a penalty box, okay, and that's what they look at. So if you can work guys through situations, that's always a good thing. If you can work a coach through a bad situation, that's better than penalties. Okay? There's times you can't. Look at the warnings above, up here. If they're going to go right there, then you have no choice. But we want to work guys through situations as much as we possibly can, especially in the playoffs. I think we've done a good job on getting these guys under control, so I don't think we're going to have a lot of issues. All right? But if you do, try and work them through the situations. Use the ladder extensively. If you've got to give a couple of conduct fouls throughout the game and take the ball away because you got a coach or a sideline that's out of control, that's better than, all of a sudden, you've warned them a few times and then in a close game you put a guy in a box for a minute. So if we can give them a couple extra warnings or whatnot, that's going to be good. Try to tune the fans out. Whatever. They paid their money. They can do what they want. If you've got a particular fan who is wrong or a section that's wrong, use the site manager. Find the referee, discreetly go over to the table, say, look, you need the site manager. When you get the site manager, say, that guy over there in section 322, the fat guy with the Eagles shirt, he's got to go. Don't call anybody out. Don't get yourself in a situation where you're yelling back and forth with the stands. That usually doesn't look good. All right? All right. And then go to the acronym. It's always easier to tighten than loosen. So in a playoff game, we can tighten things up a little bit later. If we start out really tight, if a guy taps a guy in the back and, you call that a push, you're stuck with it. If a guy brushes a guy along the helmet with his stick, he makes a pretty good check and you flag it, your crew is stuck with it. Okay? So it's easier to tighten things up later. when it gets chippy than it is to loosen them. All right, so just remember that. And I always tell guys in playoffs, look, we're going to let you guys play until you show me you can't. All right? So give them some latitude in playoff games. Let the games be exciting. Let the kids settle it as much as you possibly can. Yes, we can't ignore at all, and we can't, illegal body checks, things to the head, late hits, all that. That's not any different than a regular game. Okay? Technical fouls, some slashes, things like that. We might want to be a little bit easier on them and let them play and stay out and not get involved. JP, do you have anything to add to that?
No. Okay. It's this is the state tournament, and everything we can do to keep the kids on the field. I think this is a good time to bring it up at the championship game. Obviously, we all know last year there was lots of things that happened, but I made a call, and it was wrong. So the kid was ejected from the game. The call was correct. There was an F-bomb dropped right next to me. I thought it was a certain number. Ejected that kid. It was his second unsportsmanlike, which, he deserved to be. It was his second unsportsman. He already had one, so that tells you, he was up to something. But he was ejected. It wasn't until the beginning of this season that film evidence was presented, and it was said the F-bomb was clearly caught on video, but it was said by somebody else. And there's more to the story that this was supposed to be a good kid and never got in trouble. And it worked out that the reason that he was so upset is because he's going. The point is, guys, we want to keep them in the game as much as possible. If that had been an earlier round game, he would have been sitting for the next one. We want to keep the guys in the game as long as possible. It's going to take a lot to get them ejected. Absolutely fight, get them out of there. If they're throwing punches, they don't deserve to play in the next one. Greg has already said it several times. Emotions are going to run high. Everybody's going to be excited. Talk him out of as much as you can. If he drops the F-bomb like we're excited, let's effing go. Guys, knock it off. Hey, watch your mouth. Easy, easy, easy. That's the big thing that I just throw out. Easy, easy, easy. Oh, whoa, whoa. Calm them down. Get them off the field. Just don't throw them out for something that they were showing emotion for. Now, like Greg said, if he turns to the kid and calls him a name, then you have a different issue. If he's talking about you, that's a different issue.
So I think we're good with that. I think hopefully everybody understands that, Again, more warnings. Like he said, if it's out of excitement, emotion, often once they figure out you're there, they're going to be, oh crap, sorry sir, I'm sorry sir, I'm sorry sir, and we move on and it's over. All right. So I'm seeing the question. So I think this is Harvey's question, but what if the clock hits 0 and the horn does not blow? So basically, I'm going to go back to your pregame. One thing you should talk about is where the clock is on the field and who's watching the clock when the offense is at different ends. Okay? So whoever that person is. So, for example, at Tower Hill, the clock is at one end of the field. So if we're at that end of the field where the clock is, it's right behind the goalposts, the trail should kind of have an eye on the clock when it's getting close to 0. When we're at the other end of the field, the single probably should be the one to look at that clock. So when you get to the point where it hits 0, okay, and that person sees it, wait a second, wait a half a second for the horn. Okay, because we're going by the horn, and the horn might not always be right in sync with the thing, but if the horn definitely doesn't blow, tweet, 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 look up, figure out where the ball was when you blew your whistle, okay? But remember, that whistle doesn't replace the horn. So if you blow your whistle and there's a shot in the air, we're in trouble. So when it hits 0, take that quick look, make sure the ball's not in the air, and then blow your whistle. Okay, maybe a good mechanic too is if it doesn't blow, hold your hand up, so it blew, and that kind of stops play. Make sure the ball's not in the air and blow the whistle. We certainly don't want a situation where even if it's the horn didn't go off, that we end up having to take a goal or allow a goal or something like that. Does that answer that question, Mr. Abbott? He's not saying anything. So, all right.
All right, Greg. We have some other questions. JP, go ahead.
No, I was good. I have one too. Go ahead.
Are there going to be bench officials?
Only for the semifinals and the finals.
Okay.
The semifinal and the championship game are the only games that will have bench officials.
Okay. If a player is ejected, you said he can be escorted off the field by a parent. How to verify parent and not other relative or even just a neighbor?
That's the coach's responsibility.
Yeah, once he's ejected, you're going to tell the coach he's ejected. We're not going to hold up the game to make sure we'll wait to make sure that he's ejected. If there's not an AD there, have him sit on the bench. Coach, he's ejected. He needs to take his equipment off, sit on the bench. He can't, we're not going to check IDs and things for parents and stuff. But once he's ejected, it becomes the coach's responsibility. We just need to make sure that that player doesn't come back onto the field. And
that if he isn't able to leave the bench area because there's nobody to watch him, then he's got to stay on the bench area. Now, if the team has 5 coaches and they're the visitors and they say, oh, we have nobody to go with them, that's a lie. They've got 4 assistant coaches who can go sit on the bus with them. So, especially in a playoff game, if you had a fight, you don't want that guy sticking around.
Right.
Yes, if they only have 2 assistants and they say there's nobody to go with them, use your head. He's got to sit here. If we have another issue, then somebody's going to have to go with him on the bus. Does that make sense?
I believe so.
All right, Chris, what else?
Stalling procedure. How long before you throw
Ray, plug in your computer.
What?
It says your computer's down to 9%.
Oh. Glad somebody's watching. Turn off your microphone. I'll get my battery. All right. So that's whoever's there. We go. All right. Freaking.
Thank you, Tommy.
Stop unmuting.
All right.
Leave
so,
it muted.
That's a great discussion for your pregame. Okay. In NFHS, remember the rules are you can put a stall warning on as long as the team with the ball is outside, keeping it outside the box, or if they're inside the box above GLE and they're being played. Okay, so that the defense is actively playing the ball. But if the guy stands above GLE, in a corner of the box, and nobody comes out to play him, that's not considered stalling in NFHS. Okay, if they're holding the ball below GLE or they're like passing it around and constantly sending it out of the box, and they do that for enough time that you think they're not working an offense, then you're more than welcome to put the stall warning on. Just remember, if you're going to put the stall, if they're doing that early in the game and you don't put the stall warning on, it becomes very hard to put it on a team later in the game. But if they pack into a tight little 3-3 zone and they sit there and let the team pass it around the box, that's not stalling. And if the coach asks you for a shot clock or the stupid timer on, which isn't even real, tell the coach, somebody's got to play him. Somebody's got to be playing the ball for me to be able to think about stalling. KP, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. It's more of a what's going on in the game, not a time thing. So don't in your pregame, don't say if they don't go to the goal in 45 seconds every time down, we're going to start talking about it. Just don't interrupt the flow of the game. Remember it's high school, so they're going to take some time to work some things out. They're going to miss some passes. They're going to miss some ground balls. If they're stalling, it's going to be blatant. I can only think of 1 or 2 teams that can actually used the stall effectively. So just make sure you're aware. That's all.
Are there any other questions?
There was one. Yes. Stick checks. Guys, my suggestion is if there's a timeout, grab sticks so you can get together and talk.
The rule book basically says 2 stick checks a game, and I would stick to that. If you get them both done in the first quarter, that's great. You're done. You know.
Yeah, that's fine. I just make sure you're getting together on timeout. That's why I would use it to just, yes, do only 2 stick checks a game, but make sure you're getting together every timeout. Make sure you're getting together, making sure you have everything, whose timeout it is, where's the ball going to restart, you know, how much time is left on the clock. Just make sure you're getting together so that you're all on the same page. But yes, I only do the 2 stick checks.
Okay, but JP brings up a great point. Get together at timeouts. Okay, even if you have to walk halfway across the field and then jog back, get together, talk about what's going on. What are you seeing? What do we got? And stick checks. Make sure that they're illegal, like grossly illegal. Okay, let's not. Again, remember, it's my same philosophy. If you put a stick on that table and don't let it go back in the game, you're the one that put it on that table and didn't let it get back in the game. So make sure if you do that it is illegal. Can we agree on that?
Yep. Any
other questions? All right, if you want to unmute people, if there's any other feedback or anything like that, and then we'll close up. You good? Guys, listen. Enjoy your assignments. Have fun. Work hard. Remember, there's no JV game. All right, unmute them.
Muted. Unmuted.
Go ahead.
There's no JV game afterwards, so you can run the entire game. And it is a playoff game, so I'm sure that your significant other wouldn't have a problem with you going out and rehydrating immediately after the game. Have fun. Work hard. Call me if you have any questions. Definitely call JP. And
Unmuted.
It's got to be
Greg.
Yes.
Greg.
Yes.
During the course of the year, you know, if I had a stick that was marginal, I took it to the coach and said, this needs some attention. What are we doing about, like, you know, the NCAA card? If the stick doesn't fit in the stick, are we banging them for that? Or are we letting that go in the playoffs?
If you can get the card, if you
Muted. Unmuted.
Hear you.
because that probably means that kid has played all year with that stick.
Start again. Start your whole thing again, Greg.
Okay. Make sure that, you know, do your best to get that card through the stick. Okay? I'm not going to tell you to turn it sideways because the rule doesn't really say how to hold the card in the stick. But try to get the card through the stick. Because if that kid has that stick on the field, and that kid probably played with it all year long. And when you take that stick, that's the first thing that coach is going to say is he's played with that stick all year long. And that's it could be illegal by rule, but that's the perception. So if they're gaining a great advantage by what they're doing with the stick, certainly if you can't get the ball off the stick, that's illegal. That's pretty defensible. Okay. Chuck, I'll get to your question in a second. You know, make sure the sticks are illegal, really illegal. Chuck, if a coach asks for a stick check, use the same barometer that you would use if you did it. If you do get a coach asking for a stick check, get the stick, take the stick as far away from that guy's bench as you can, run it through the test. Yes, it's grossly illegal, it's got to go. Now it's on the coach. You know, chances are you're going to be doing another one for the other team, because when some asshole asked my team for a stick check and the stick went, that was usually my end.
Hold on for a second, Greg.
Muted. Unmuted.
All right, there's just too much going on. I mean, nobody's doing anything, but I think there's a lot of interference when we unmute everybody. So go ahead.
No, I'm done. I think everybody heard that.
Yeah.
It all goes with trying not to get involved. So again, have fun. Let us know how you do. Referees, we do want you to keep filling out game reports. Okay? And JP, do you want them to call you after their game?
Referee, yes. Call or text. Probably better to text. Text me. If you are designated the referee of a game, please text me the score as soon as you get in the car. The score, the two teams, the score, and if anyone was ejected. Only if anyone was ejected. Other than that, I think we're good.
Last chance for questions.
Type them quick.
Yes, Nick, that's the ref report on Google that you're filling out. You're filling that report out too, and then you're also filling out, you're just texting JP. Yes. The Google report gives us a permanent record of it. Any other questions? They all were good questions. All right, guys, have fun. Work hard, do good, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we can end this.
All right.